Mm-hmm. Okay, Mrs. Beneventi.
Grandma to you.
I am not your grandchild. I am the director of this film.
Okay.
So, tell me when you're ready. Are you ready, Grandma?
I guess. My given name is Suzanne, but I go by Sue. And my husband is the one that named me Sue.
Sue.
Before I was called Sue, I went by Susie.
Yes.
So that's how I became Sue.
And your middle name?
My middle name is Orette.
Ovette?
Orette.
Orette.
Which is a name you've probably never ever heard before, but it's a family name. It was my dad's mother's middle name, Oretta. And so my mom did not like the name Oretta, so they decided on Orette. I don't care for the name Orette either.
It's unique.
Very unique.
And what's your birth date?
12/3/1943.
And where were you born?
I was born in Connersville, Indiana.
Okay. And tell us about your parents.
My mother's name was Geraldine, and her maiden name was Mackenzie, which is Scottish. And I didn't know her mother or her father because her father passed away when she was 6 years old. He died in a car accident. And her mother passed away when she was about 20, and she had cancer. And she was born in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And she had one sister whose name was Marilyn, who was my dear, dear, dear aunt. My only aunt, but my dear, dear aunt. And they grew up together, and they lived in Kalamazoo, Michigan until they were young adults. And, they went their separate ways through marriage. When I was, I'll tell you a little bit more about my life, as I recall. I can remember back to when I was about 2, and we lived in this huge white house. And I can recall what it looks like, and I remember along the back fence there were these flowers called hollyhocks, which are very popular back east. And my mother used to teach me how to make dolls out of these flowers. And there, my dad owned a bar, and my mother was a stay-at-home mother. Anyway, my dad gave up the bar, and we moved to Florida. I was about 5, and I don't recall what my dad did, but one of the memories I have of living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, was that my mom was walking me to school, to kindergarten, and along the street, down yonder, there was a crocodile, and there were people capturing the crocodile. They were putting him on a board to take him away. So that was a pretty, special memory in my life. And from there, we went to Orange, California, and we lived there for just a few years. And then my dad took a job up in Barstow, California. I was in 3rd grade. And we lived there for 2 years. He purchased a bar, which eventually became a church. Isn't that funny? After he sold it and left, it became a church. And he did conveyor type work there. And I was about 10 years old, I think, then. And we lived in a little community called Linwood, which is just south of Barstow. and it was before the freeway went in. Well, I can remember playing in the sand dunes, and there was this reservoir that wasn't too far away, and the kids in the neighborhood would all go up to this reservoir of water. We'd go swimming, and we would slide down sand dunes with cardboard boxes. So it was great fun living on the desert. Had a lot of fun there. And then we moved down to Mission Beach. And I lived on Kennebec Court in Mission Beach. And I went to Ocean Beach, or Mission Beach Elementary School for 2 years. And then I went to Pacific Beach Junior High School, which is still there, for 7th grade. And then for 8th grade, we moved up to Manhattan Beach. I went to school 1 year there. Then we moved to Anaheim. And I actually lived in Anaheim when they were building Disneyland. So that's going way back. Because I think Disneyland celebrated their 50th anniversary a few years ago. So I was in 9th grade when Disneyland opened. And in those days, you could just pay general admission. You didn't have and you had this ticket system where you would pay your way in, and if you wanted to get a ticket book, it had A, B, C, D, E tickets, and that's how you went through Disneyland. Or you could just pay 90 cents and get in and walk through the whole place. So that's the way Disneyland used to be.
90 cents.
90 cents. And when I was in 8th grade is when I met my husband. And so we kind of, were good friends for a few years. And then my mom, I had a dear friend that lived in Mission Beach. So wherever I moved, she came to spend 2 weeks with me during the summer. And then I would come and spend 2 weeks with her during the summer. And it was through her that I met Robert, my husband, your grandpa. And by the time I was in 10th grade, we were super good friends. Boyfriend, girlfriend, you might say. And he would come and visit me up in Anaheim. And then summer of my junior year, my dad announced we were moving to Washington, D.C. So I did that. And then when I came back, we had planned that we would get married. So I was married right out of high school. I was 19 in December, and we were married in January. So I was a very young bride.
And he was 21, 22.
He was 2.5 years older than I was. My mom and dad had purchased an apartment building in Costa Mesa, which is a nice beach community. It was in Manhattan Beach. So my mom managed the place there, and that's where I lived during the summer. And I had gotten a job there, and Robert would come and visit on weekends. He was out of high school, and he was working at Convair, which was his lifelong job, Convair. And so we had started planning our wedding. We were going to get married in the upcoming January. So that's what we did. And his mother had inherited this duplex when Robert was a junior in high school. And so Robert had moved up front. He lived up front with his uncle, his mother's brother, and the rest of his family lived back here. So when Robert and I got married, and in the meantime, his uncle had passed away. He had cancer. Robert was taking care of him. That's why he lived up there with him. And so when we were married, we lived in the front apartments there, the front unit. So this residence has been my only home since I left home. We lived up front till your dad was about 2, and then we moved back here. And this is the only home that they've had. Robert and I were married for 43 years. Well, I was a very shy young lady. I would never have pursued him or anybody else. was very shy. But my friend knew Robert, and she's the one that introduced me to him. And
How was he? Was he shy?
Robert? No way. No, he was very outgoing. Very outgoing. And as I said, he was 2.5 years older than I was, so he was driving. He actually was driving when I met him. He was driving a car when I first met him. But we weren't allowed to date. I mean, I was only in 8th grade. So he would come and visit. Okay, well, the summer before we got married, I moved down to San Diego. The girl that introduced Robert and I, her mother allowed me to stay. I rented from them, and I worked at a jewelry store down here waiting for us to get married. So we worked on our wedding. We were married in January.
Mm-hmm.
And my family at the time were still in Washington, D.C. area.
Okay.
So I was out here all by myself. As the kids started to grow up, everything they did, we were there to support them, and particularly the boys when they played baseball. That was a sport that they liked, so we were very involved in Little League. And then Tina played bobby sox, which is a girls' softball. That was pretty much all we did activity-wise with the kids. They didn't offer all the things way back then that they offer now, but
What did you and Grandpa like to do together for fun?
we bowled a lot. There a couple of times we were on husband and wife bowling teams.
That's fun.
Yeah. We vacationed every year. Actually, when your dad was a baby in a stroller, we discovered Yosemite. And the people that Dad worked with had talked to him about what a wonderful place it was to go to Yosemite National Park. So the first time we went, we rented a camper. And we actually stayed on the river. They had camping spots on the river. We went there every summer for 21 years. And that was the first year was the only time we had a camper. We used to stay across the river. We saw these places called housekeeping, which were little half cabin type things. They had a cement floor, cement walls, canvas roof, and out of your dwelling you could have a bonfire at night. And all of our cooking was on a potbelly stove. It was fun. It was wonderful. And most of those years when the kids got older, or when they started getting older, they wanted to take a friend. So we took a lot of kids to Yosemite. And
Did you guys all pile into one car? Yes.
yeah. A couple of times we went up there, we rented a U-Haul so we could take all of our wood and all of our food, because Grandma cooked big meals every night for 6 kids, plus he and I. And we took the bicycles. Any way we could save money, we would. Like, take our own bikes instead of renting them. Take our food, because food up there was expensive. And the kids just loved it. Because we took a few vacations where we drove there, and we spent so much time driving there and back, we were too tired, and it took away a lot of our time. So the most ideal vacation was to go to Yosemite, because you drive there in one day, and you spend all of your time in one place. So they truly, truly loved that.
Did you want to be a stay-at-home mom? Was that yeah?
In my time of growing up, there was college was not all that important for women. There weren't a whole lot of career-minded women. I had no desire whatsoever to go on to college. I wanted to get married and be a stay-at-home mom. So.
But you did work for a while.
I didn't work out of the house for a while. For 10 years, I took care of children in my home. I did that for 10 years. I chose that to help, but also because I wasn't educated to get a good paying job to pay for childcare for my children, while I was working. So I did the childcare thing. And then I decided that I'd like to do something else. So I went to real estate school. And I studied very, very hard because at that time I had kids in junior high and high school. And I had to pass the real estate exam the first time. I felt I needed to, show my kids that mom could do it. And I did. I passed the real estate exam the very first time. And I enjoyed it. But in those days, this is hard to believe, but there was a time when real estate interest rates were 20% and 20 to 22%. So, exactly. So I wasn't writing much business. I only sold a few houses. And then I had a dear friend who worked for San Diego City Schools. She worked in the cafeteria. She was a cook in the kitchen. In those days, all the cooking was done on site. Today, it's brought in from other companies, I believe. It's prepared in other places and brought in. And so I started off because I wasn't making much money in real estate. And I was asked if I'd like to try it part-time to serve during lunchtime. So I did that, and I enjoyed it. Before I knew it, I became a pastry cook, which was a very, very hard job, but I did it for 12 years. So eventually just gave up real estate and did my pastry cook job with city schools. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of acquaintances, but very few what you call deep friends. And I had my very closest friend was Nancy Kampfnick, who I met. She went to school with Robert, my husband, and I actually met her just before Robert and I were married, and we were lifelong friends. And their family and our family were close. The kids were about the same age. They had 2 sons, but one was the same age as Alan, and the other was the same age as Gary. As I said, I didn't have a lot of friends, really. That sounds a little strange, but I had a lot of acquaintances, but deep, deep friends, I could count them on one hand. I wasn't a person to join clubs. I was, many years ago, they started playing softball right down here on the school field. Adult teams started playing softball. Ladies started to play, and I was on a team called Beach Bunnies, and we were the first ladies softball team in Ocean Beach, anyway, to play, and I was on that team for a few years. And then I was on a volleyball team down at the recreation center. I liked to play volleyball. And in those days, the recreation center was very busy with more activity for adults and for kids. Mm-hmm. And so I did a lot down there, too. I enjoyed working with clay. Liquid clay is called slip. And you pour clay or slip into molds. And you make your own objects. And then you clean it. And then it gets fired. And then you paint it. That was one of the hobbies that I had. And That was fun.
Do you have any of those pieces?
No,
Mm.
don't have any left
Hmm.
over the years. And then for many years after our children were grown and in their own homes or away at school, I enjoyed sewing and I made crafts. And for several years, I did items for a Christmas craft show for about 7, 8 years. That was fun and interesting. So I met people and had friends through that. But then Robert got ill, and so then he became the focus of my time. And I've had a very rich life, wonderful family. I'm blessed over and over and over with all of my grandchildren. I have 8 grandchildren, and I have, I'm going to have more great-grandchildren. I currently have 4 great-grandchildren, and I'm going to have 2 more. So, family's growing.
Mm-hmm. What other hobbies did you have? Like your garden was a big hobby for you too.
I love, when I could get out and work in the yard, I loved working in my yard. It's hard to find a person who will weed. I love to weed because nobody would bother me. It was a peaceful time for me to think, and I liked weeding. I loved planting flowers. There was a time when I changed my flowers every season. Spring flowers, winter flowers. Spring flowers, winter flowers. And you could actually walk around my yard and you wouldn't find a weed at all, front or back. And I used to go out and collect snails. We live in an area that's very damp, so we had a lot of snails, but I actually picked them so well that I haven't seen a snail in years. I eradicated the snails in my yard.
And we helped with that.
And
too.
all you kids had your fair share of collecting snails with Grandma.
Yeah, throwing them away.
Put them
Yeah.
in a milk jug, remember that?
Yeah,
Salt in the milk jug.
yeah.
Do you feel like that was like an outlet for you? It was like you're kind of like your personal therapy time in the yard in the dirt.
Yes, because my yard was beautiful, and people would comment on what a beautiful yard I had, with the flowers, and I took pride in it, and I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of an artist.
Well, there's many ways to be an artist.
Yeah.
There was an artist in planting flowers and choosing colors and blending the colors. There's artistry in sewing. There's artistry in a lot of things. So
Baking.
in baking, I love to bake. That is very creative too.
Mm-hmm. And like in terms of the world, or even like this neighborhood, how things have changed between when you were young and now. Like, what's your perspective on how things have changed in the world?
One of the things, well, talking about the city, I can just tell you what I've seen change. When I was first married, there was only one tall building downtown. It was called El Cortez Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
That was over 50 years ago. Over 50 years ago. And now look at the skyline of the city. All those buildings. Now that's what makes me feel old. Looking at the skyline of the city is amazing, when there was nothing like that when I was 19 years old. And so that's been kind of fun to see all of that change. There was no bridge when I was a young married, so I saw the bridge being built,
Coronado Bridge.
Coronado Bridge.
How did you get there? By ferry?
They used to have ferries that you put your cars on. They weren't huge. They only held 6, 7, 8 cars is all. Or you'd have to drive over there, which meant driving way
Sure.
down south on the freeway and coming back up on Silver Strand. So needless to say, we didn't go to Coronado very much. The pier, I've seen the pier go in there. There was an era where we were known as Antique City or Antique Row. We had so many antique shops. And so they've kind of been taken over by breweries. Of course, I've seen a lot of change in inflation of things. When I was young, I used to hear my parents talk about what they used to buy things for. And it was amazing to me. But now I can say things like that to my family. Like, I remember going to the grocery store and I remembered thinking, boy, things are getting expensive. Before you know it, a loaf of bread's going to cost $1. Really? Or 3 pounds of hamburger was $1.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've seen tremendous change in inflation of everything. Everything's affected by inflation. Peoples, I've seen a lot of change in family life due to the fact that there were more mothers who stayed at home. I think families lived a lot differently than they do today. Their families are more independently growing up with each other, around each other, but not so much with each other. Everybody's kind of living their own life, so to speak. To us, me, it was very important that our family have dinner together every night. We always had dinner together every night. And that's not the case so much today, I don't think. Families spent a lot more time talking to each other and interacting with each other because they didn't have all the social media stuff that they have there available to them today, like telephones. I think that young people, it kind of bothers me that young people are losing the art of conversation, the art of mingling, with their family and others. They've always got their faces in the telephone. And that's a little worrisome to me. You kind of have to wonder where that's going.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that mothers are any less of mothers because they have to work. I don't feel that way at all. It's just today is it's necessary for people to both husband and wife to be educated because it takes so much to live.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Was there any events in your life or points that you clearly remember that were really highly impactful, that really changed you, or that were just really big moments in life?
Well, the biggest thing would probably be as I started losing my family, my parents. You get a different perspective on life, which would come with anybody that's getting older. You start looking at things a little differently. You start realizing more the value of what's important, what you should cherish, what's not so important. Probably those things. I mean, there was a lot of things my kids did that made us, both Robert and I felt very proud and happy of them for what they did or accomplished. I'm not so sure that was such a big impact upon my life, but what really makes you start changing your way of thinking is things like death around you. I had my dear friend that was my very special friend. She lost her child when he was 14. And he was your dad's very best friend. So that was one thing that really had a big impact upon me. But I think most of it would be just the loss of family members, and most definitely the loss of my husband.
Is there anything in your life that you wish you would have done differently? or that you wish you would have done that you didn't do?
Not really. I've had a wonderful life. I've had to adapt to a lot of things because my husband got ill early. So I don't want to say I wish I could have done more than what I did, because I treasured him and wanted to do all I could for him. So that put a different perspective. Just even though it's been so many years, it's hard to talk about. It's hard to talk about. But no, I had a wonderful, wonderful life.
Well, then what would you say, like, to your kids or your grandkids or great grandkids? What would you want them to know that you, from your life experience, what you found to be the most important to know, to think about in life, or to value?
Well, enjoy your life along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait till you get to be a certain age to start doing stuff and having fun. It doesn't matter what you do. Enjoy it along the way. And don't be so judgmental on people. Always give them a second chance, because you don't know what's going on in their lives. I've always tried not to be judgmental of people, or I always try to find good in them. Not so. That's what I would want them to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
I find good in everybody. It's so easy to get your feelings hurt or to take things the wrong way, and so many times people don't mean the way we take it, or everybody has something good in them, or you don't know what's bothering them, you don't know why they said this or why they did that, and it's not always fair to be judgmental because of that, Just find good in everybody. Love the Lord. Love the Lord. When you have moments where you cannot deal with it, you can't get through it, you just give it to the Lord. He helps you.
So did you guys go to church, or did you?
We went to Ocean Beach Baptist Church right down here, our family.
Mm-hmm.
My family did not go to church, but Robert and I wanted to bring our children up in the church and have them go to Sunday school, and that was very close to us. And well, actually his mother didn't go to church, but she wanted him to go to church, and the Baptist church was close to where they lived. He grew up on the next block over. So that's the church that we just went to as young marrieds.
Mm-hmm.
And he was baptized in that church when he was very young. And then I went forward when I was a young mother, and I was baptized, accepted the Lord in the Baptist church, and I was baptized down there.
What do you want to be remembered for when it's all said and done?
That I was kind, that I found good in people, that I truly, truly loved my family. They were, each and every one was very, very special. Each and every one has a special talent. I want everybody to know that I truly love the Lord. To enjoy your life. Don't carry your heavy burdens, just give them to God so that you will enjoy your life. And get as much as you can out of life. Don't wait to live it until you're too old to live it. Doesn't matter if you just take a walk at night. If you're out in fresh air and you're enjoying yourself, that's living life.
Yeah.
That's getting everything you can out of life, because it goes a lot faster than you think it does. You turn around one day and you're going to be 50.
I think that
The joy of living. I want my family to have the joy of living. Life is good. don't carry heavy burdens. There's no need to.
Speaking of joy, I think that, as we're talking, there are things that are coming up for me that I remember that, like Aunt Tina, Nancy, Nancy had her way of talking with Grandpa Bob.
A special language.
Yeah.
They developed a special language way back in high school. Yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
And to end on a happy note, what were some like the funny? Are there any funny memories that you have, or like?
Oh, I'm sure, but there has to be something that happens to make it click with me, But you get all my kids together and they start remembering stuff, and then we all start really laughing a lot. Yeah. We have a very happy family. My 3 kids are close, and they have fun over memories, and it's fun to joke around together. Some families can't do that, believe it or not. Laugh together, have talk about fun memories, fun times. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's probably a very important piece of how tight the family is.
Yeah.
That element of laughter.
Yes. Laughter is so important.
Mm. You think that came from Grandpa Bob?
Yes. A lot of it. Yeah. He was the glue, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very quiet person, but I can get going. But I need somebody to jumpstart me. Mm-hmm. He just had that way of making everybody laugh. And anyway. Mm-hmm. And I'm a total optimist, so.
It's good. Good. And scene.
I forgot this is, Graham.
You're gonna turn that off now, right?
Yeah.